Good morning, good evening, hello viewers. I'm Greg, and this is not Jen's Jark. It's definitely not
Good
Jen's.
morning. No. Nobody can replace Jen's. That's for sure.
Yeah, so we're a couple of Wirecast enthusiasts. We use the product. We like the product. We want to share some of the stuff that we have tested or experienced with Wirecast, answer some questions, and just have some fun. So
Always down for that.
So before we do answer questions, just to give a bit of background, I use Wirecast myself for live streaming about drones. It's a hobby, it's an interest, but I've also got a very, very technical background myself. What about yourself? What do you use Wirecast for?
I do.
Now, Matthew, we have a big question mark where your face should be. And we have no audio for you as well.
Hey, I'm back.
You're back. You are back.
Didn't change anything on my end. Interesting. I guess it was one of those Wirecast rendezvous issues.
Yeah, well, anyway, we really need to, let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure. So educational events, just putting that out there. I do a lot of that. Conferences. Cool. My intro's done. Content now.
Okay, let's talk about that. The question mark.
The question mark. I think you and I, this is the bane of our existence for this. You have had a bug in for that. I've had a bug in for that. And I bet I recovered really quickly on your side, but the live didn't it?
Correct. So what happens when this bug happens? The rendezvous session for Matt disappeared for a moment and reconnected. Fine. I have no problem with that. The impact to the output of what our viewers see is they get a big question mark. Now, neither of us like that, but let's pretend for a minute we can accept it. Let's just pretend. As soon as it gets that big question mark on the left-hand side of the screen in the preview monitor, you're back there again.
Yeah.
I could accept the question mark if it auto-transitioned the question mark back to the real source on the live shot. Vaguely, almost, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't know if I'd love that. I love the fact that it's there. Let's be clear. The fact that they're including it as a feature to say, hey, this source is missing, absolutely agree with. What I don't think is agreeable is the fact that it goes to the live view. It should be on the preview. But
you know, that's an interesting way of, that's an interesting way of solving the problem. Just getting, I think that'd be
never on the live view. And optionally, any input source should be able to have a placeholder, right? You should be able to say, use the last frame or use this image.
I think you're absolutely right.
It bugs me to the point where I think, I could live with it being on the live view if it weren't for the fact that, like you had just said, the preview side of it is fixed. The live side isn't. And I've seen the same thing happen with scaling as well, where scaling Skype or whatnot, or even Rendezvous, I think if you change resolutions, it'll change the dynamic resolution of the page. And although in the preview side, it's fine because it's properly rescaled it, in the live view, it hasn't.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's get started. So what we're going to do today is have a look at some of the tickets, both in the official Telestream community forum, the new stuff in there. But before we do that, I do want to share with people who may not be aware of it. I'll put this up on the screen.
I just realized my shirt kind of matches your water. Maybe
blue
wasn't
fine.
The best one.
So let's chuck that in there and get rid of us for a brief moment. So this is the Wirecast community tracker. This is something that I created, and it's a repository of all of the stuff that previously in the Telestream forums kind of got lost. You know, if people want something, and being able to, from a customer perspective, understand where it's all up to. Here's the really, really good story about this. If you have a look in the left-hand side of this, last completed ideas, all of these things were done by Telestream. And I think, not to, try and boost our own egos or anything like that, but by tracking this stuff and working with Telestream, we have actually, I think, improved our chances of getting some of this stuff fixed.
Well, I completely agree. And I think the list you see there is always big, becoming bigger. Some of the big ones I want to take note of here, the addition of a stinger. Now, for long-term users, you know that it was in Wirecast up until version 5. And when they released version 6, it was removed and then promised, hey, yes, this is coming back. Great. Submit your want for having something or having this feature come back. Submit the feature request. Submit the feature request again and again and again and again. And when it finally came back, it's been a big thing. So I know a lot of people have been using it, and it's definitely something that I've been playing with myself internally. But I'm glad to see it back, and it's something that I can't say that you and I have had any influence on that, but I'd like to think we do.
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a lot of pressure for that. So just let me put this on the screen, the place for people who are using Wirecast who might want to go and have a look at that.
Sure.
And I need to go to that shot. There we go. So wirecast.gregkuhnert.com, I just made it a subdomain of something of my own. If you go to that web URL, that's where we are storing all of this stuff that we want for Wirecast. And we've got a meeting together next week with one of the Wirecast management team to have a look at stuff that we've already got in there and see if we can understand the current status and progress some and all of that goodness.
Yeah, I know. I heard actually back today from them that one of my big gripes and my big why isn't this working, is being. I think the statement was that they're completely redoing the whole thing to hopefully make it work better. So,
which thing are we talking about?
My the font rendering issue, where none of the fonts that are brand fonts outside of regular bold or italic function. It's been a long bane of mine to not have condensed typefaces, extended typefaces, anything not the standard 3.
Okay. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just bringing up some email messages, and the first one that comes in my Wirecast Telestream inbox is LinkedIn live beta testing.
Yep.
What are LinkedIn doing?
So LinkedIn's interesting. Have you had a chance to experience this yet? It's LinkedIn's going live streaming. They're taking a step in the live video industry here, kind of like what Vimeo is doing. But I think the LinkedIn is trying to focus around communities there, which I don't know if I'd be for wanting to watch that, but a lot of businesses use LinkedIn as a primary means of communication now. So all the power to them.
Look, I think it's really good that the LinkedIn is going in that direction. I mean, I was watching a webinar just yesterday from a company that I followed for a long time, Process Maker. Totally unrelated to video, but they've got some really cool software. They do business process management. Really, really lovely solution. But they could have benefited, I think, from doing their webinar on LinkedIn, definitely.
So right now it's in private beta. You have to submit a request in order to do that. And in that request submission, linking to content you've already provided, the business that you're associated to, and the intent. So I have submitted under the guise of, hey, I do educational events, I do conferences. Can I get in there under my own personal brand, not to do actual content, but to test the platform, to make sure it's up and running? And when I get somebody that wants to live stream out to this platform, that I'm not caught off guard and I understand the platform and its intricacies. I received an email back saying, hey, we can't reply to everybody, but keep an eye out for us. and then nothing.
Okay. It is what it is.
Yep.
But I think it's good for the future, and obviously we'll be watching that keenly with regard to Wirecast integration and APIs at some point. Is it? It's only RTMP at the moment, is it?
I believe you have to have an API access, and I think Wirecast does. Reading some of the comments I've seen from Craig on the forum, you need to basically confirm you have beta access, and then you either get a copy of Wirecast with like that enabled.
You know what? I've
something.
just had a look. I've just had a look at it, and I've got LinkedIn Live available as a new source that I could add there. So
that is something that I have not seen yet as well. So there you go.
Okay, so let me get out of that and move on to our second one for the day. Cineform with alpha CPU use. This is one of your own.
This is one of my own. I think I have a couple in there, but we'll probably skip some of them.
But I do want to specifically look at this one. So what was your problem?
So I've been recently trying to get live streaming up with, I'm not going to pull it up now because it's going to be weird. Live streaming out with 360-degree cameras. So I've done some testing. I've had definitely some practice with it. But what I'm really interested in is live graphics over top of video, which is very minimal. You can pre-render graphics out and place that as an overlay, we all know, with just standard video content. But what I want to do is I want to have live content being live streamed over top of video. This can be motion graphics. This can be just generic placeholders. It could be brand elements. So my intent here was, hey, let's render a video content with a transparent video and have it just at the bottom, which basically translates to a circle at the bottom when you take your 360 view and bring it down. So I rendered it some transparent video using, I believe, animation the first time, because that's just the one I've been normally used to, RGBA. Yep. Ran it through Wirecast, and although Wirecast was able to handle the 360 video at YouTube's resolution, minimal resolution, mind you, as soon as I put video content over that, it crippled my system. And I've got a GTX 1070, and it should be running it fine on that. But the CPU just got crippled. So I did some more testing, back and forth with Craig on the forum. He's like, yep, we've got, you can either try Cineform or the animation. I tried Cineform. Cineform's even worse. And the big thing is why is it using the CPU to render this? Shouldn't it be using the GPU? It's selected in there. And that's very interesting that we're still using CPU rendering on this so far. Yeah.
So let's go in a different direction. Alpha channel overlays in general. I had a problem, and I'll just share this. I haven't got the link to go and pull up, but maybe you can look for that while I talk about it.
Sure.
On an Apple on an Apple running Wirecast 10, that's when this broke. So for me, I was doing ProRes pre-recorded little clips, and those clips were my logo, a countdown clock, a little YouTube spinny thing, and I had all of these different elements that I wanted to overlay at different parts of a live production. All ProRes Alpha channel. As soon as I started putting more than one of them on the screen at the same time, the CPU went to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, just tanks.
And I've got the same question for you. Why is it that Wirecast is, even though I'm using a hardware encoder for my output wires, Wirecast not using the hardware to do all of this work?
Yeah. Like if you took all of the rendering and you threw that on the GPU, I'd be happy with CPU encoding. Use the GPU to do all of the pre-rendering and taking all the content and then throwing that over. Sorry, I'll try not to block your face there.
I could always switch this and put you in the background, but with a personality like yours, you've always got to stay in the front. Anyway.
I'm not going to argue.
Speaking of rendering and CPU, here's another one of my bugbears. the Wirecast Rendezvous dashboard. Right now, the dashboard is open for me on my desktop. Now, when I'm doing my normal stuff that I do when I'm broadcasting my show, I have multiple people coming in and out. So I need to keep that window open. Seems reasonable. Now, I want to actually do this live. Let's go and have a look. I'm going to go to...
Excellent.
We're going into the laboratory. System CPU usage. Unfortunately, here's a really frustrating thing as well. The statistics, the output statistics from Telestream, they don't do app CPU, even though you can record app CPU numbers at the top of the screen, which we've all seen before. But anyway, that's just another little gripe of mine.
Yeah, well, can I just... Whoa, let's go back to this.
Mm-hmm.
That whole statistics window, and I think you'd agree with this, shouldn't be limited to only working when you have something live. And it's, again, something...
So you're talking about gathering data?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. You're talking about the... Yeah, agree, 100%.
Right? If I'm about to start live streaming, I would love to use this panel to gauge whether or not, hey, do I need to close Chrome windows? Is something in the background maybe taking something up that I'm not aware of? Mm-hmm. It's there. We want to use the tool. It's just, if I need to push to go live before it even kicks in, that's late. That's really late.
Yep. Okay. Agreed. 100%. So let me go and send that window up there now. I'll click there and I'll click over there. Clickety-click. There we go. So there's my live statistics right now. And before I go and talk about CPU, let's just have a quick little zoom in on the RTMP queue size. 800 milliseconds, I think. So that's acceptable. The reason I wanted to look at that is my
Telstra.
Lovely internet. Telstra, thank you. We love you. Today, at least. Oh, look at that. We just had a spike as soon as I said that. They're listening.
I was about to say the screen went blank for a quick second there.
Okay, so we're looking at system CPU usage. Let me turn off the other lines so that we can just zoom in on that. Now, just out of interest, right, the CPU usage when we went to this screen as opposed to the chroma key, as per what we were just talking about before, why is it doing all of this work in CPU even though I'm telling Wirecast to use the GPU? So that's the first question. Now I'm about to shut the Rendezvous dashboard, close that window. Let's see what happens. And I'll bet you today it's not gonna. Come on, show me. Maybe they fixed it. It's going down a little. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing Rendezvous as a big hog on my CPU as well. But that's also Chrome, so I'm not going to blame Wirecast too much on that. Chrome with multiple videos in it as a WebRTC.
So let me reopen the Rendezvous dashboard on my system. It's not... To be fair to Telestream, it's not having as big an impact as I've previously seen it having. So let's assume.
But aren't you running a new beast of a machine too?
This is still on the iMac. The beast of the machine is actually doing. Yeah. So let me go and get us back in the fish tank. There we go. Okay. Okay, so CPU using it.
I'm sending you like extreme high resolution video back to you too.
No, my inbound graphics is, my inbound network is not a concern, not a problem.
Okay, because I'm sending you 1080 coming back to you.
Yeah, I don't care. My inbound resolution is not a problem. But let's just have a quick little peek at the statistics window since I've still got it around somewhere. Output, show statistics, and let's go. Doink. RTMP queue size is our friend, and as you saw there, we have Mount Vesuvius, the Telstra eruption.
Yep.
So the purple line is bad. This is an example of what happens when you have a network that is suboptimal. I'll try and be politically correct today.
I think Thunderbird 6 in the chat has it correct on there.
What did he say?
Blame Telstra.
Well, it seems reasonable to me. I'm not going to go. I don't want to ask anything else about that one other than we want it.
Yeah, and to be clear, it technically does support 4K. Mm-hmm. You can support 4K. The 2560 by 1440 is considered to be 4K in YouTube's eyes. You can even go up to a higher 4K. Basically, the bare minimum and medium levels of 4K absolutely work in Wirecast by simply setting custom canvas size and changing your configuration of the encoder.
Yeah. There's another interesting topic overall. In terms of video formats, when you're playing with video, and here's a question for you, right? This is something I don't know the answer to. If you're watching YouTube and you're doing anything below 4K, it's using hardware to do the decoding. But as soon as you go above that, I believe it's using CPU.
It really depends on a couple of factors. A, the tool that you're using to watch the content. So a Chrome browser or a Firefox browser can use GPU or GPU acceleration in order to do that.
Yeah, but it's not H.264 video once you go above those sizes. And that's where Apple, for example, in its hardware doesn't have decoders for the alternate formats that are used for the 4K kind of stuff.
So I haven't really done testing with a lot of 4K, but I know that like you can do lower than 1080p to run on GPU. Mm-hmm. Heck, you don't even need technically video to run GPU. A lot of web pages are now focusing on GPU.
Yeah, but the point that I'm making, the video encoding method that's used by YouTube is not supported in hardware once you go above the traditional stuff into the 4K realm.
Oh, you're still having YouTube re-encode all that stuff though, right? As like WebP or whatever they're using right now.
WebM or whatever it is. Yeah, that one. So yeah, that format, all of that kind of stuff, once you get there, YouTube actually sends it back to you as WebM, raw, and it's not rendered in your hardware. So it's your CPU that's actually doing all of that work to decode and display. Something I picked up the other day just watching some other content.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I haven't done too much extensive testing with that. That'd be worth diving into.
It's worth diving into. And for people that do want to do 4K stuff, ask yourself, who is your market? Who are the people that are going to watch it? And if they don't necessarily have expensive supercomputers to go and watch your video, maybe 4K is not the way for you. But well, I'm talking out loud.
Yeah, no, it's true. But the 4K content, you can still watch 4K content at lower resolutions, and that is re-encoded.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, your Nightbot is still on iSpike. Just saying, that's not a... It's all good.
Nightbot, he's our friend.
Yeah, no, I watched him. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Next one, support for Elgato Stream Deck USB controller. Yeah.
Yeah. I have one. It'd be great. But I want to bring up this. So you brought this up, and I'm glad it was you that brought it up. If you go into the voting section, you'll notice that there's a conversation that's gone interestingly missing.
So, should I be looking at this particular one, the Elgato Stream Deck, or should I be looking for something else? Or
is
if
that
it's gone
the voting
missing,
one?
Well, this is a voting one.
Yeah. Then look, how is the history looking in that? Do you see the dialogue that's gone back and forth?
Okay, let me bring that up. Is this what I'm looking for?
Yep. Do you remember the conversation, the back and forth I've already had in this one? I'm surprised this is something that we have to vote upon conversations.
Okay.
That has completely disappeared. I don't think I've ever seen Telestream remove forum posts like that.
Okay. They don't. Okay. I'm going to say nothing. I'll be politically correct.
I just wanted to bring it up. I get why they did it, and I understand, but it's interesting to know.
Anyway, so back to the actual topic of the question, Elgato support. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I think the Elgato support isn't about the Elgato support. Elgato support would come hand in hand with an API. And an API has been in the books and like wanting for so long.
Pause. You're talking about a Wirecast API in general?
Yes.
And the fact that there is one, but it's very, very, I'm trying to be politically correct, rudimentary.
Correct. Now you can do AppleScript in that manner, which I have experimented and it definitely does work. But there is no solid framework for an API like there is in some of the competitors. And I think that's where the underlying problem comes in. If there was a foundation for a strong API, then the community would be able to build a Stream Deck and probably already would have. The API for Stream Deck and how to build plugins is extremely easy. You can do web, Python, and a variety of other methods of doing it, which is why when they released the product, there was already a plethora of different tools that were compatible with it. You can do things like adding hotkeys and doing keyboard shortcuts with it. But I've got a bug in right now where keyboard shortcuts don't always work the best way. And to really take advantage of that, you need to have 50 different scenes of the same thing.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about this one. Wirecast API expansion is one that I've got in the community tracker. Yep. And I say the API in its current form is missing many components. There are no script actions, for example, for Rendezvous. As an example, I use Rendezvous regularly and I would love to be able to script some of this to automate it to make it easier for me, but there's nothing in there. Now, to be fair, this is one of the ones that I put into the category of don't need it right now because there are many, many other problems that are more important. And that's the problem. A priority. And that's the problem itself, because as long as it's not a priority, it'll never get done.
Yeah. Well, I think seeing what the competitors are doing with tools like Stream Deck and external APIs now, it might become a priority internally for them. They're the ones that posted that in the vote. We didn't, or the community didn't. So that might be something that they want to take a look at doing, especially with Wirecast 1. Wirecast 1, the target demographic for this is getting people off of free software that has terrible audio controls. Yeah.
Okay. So long story short, Wirecast API expansion, it's one that's not easily votable as something that's important, but it's something that Telestream should do from a competitive advantage perspective.
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's go and see what we've got next. Elgato, QR codes. Someone saying they can't get a QR, but it scans as invalid.
Yeah. So I'm also seeing a back and forth with the mono signal. That's super easy to fix, and I think it looks like they had done that. But like they seem to be activating both left and right channels on left and right channels, which is interesting. It should just be channel one is whichever one, left or right. But yeah, that seems to be fairly easy to fix on that.
Yeah, I'm going to move a shot in my screen to make this easier because I keep on having to. This is one that's I'm going to talk about live because it's an annoying one. When you're moving a shot from one place to another, it's hard to drag it sometimes.
It is, but admittedly, that's the same for every platform, and I think it's when you click somewhere where are you actually clicking? If you have transparent videos over top of it, do you want
I get it.
That even Photoshop, which has been doing it for how long, still has its quirks for that.
Anyway.
Yeah. But I agree with you. There are things that could be improved.
Yep. Audio features. That was the one we were just talking about. By the way, there's an interesting one. I've seen a lot of people talking about Skype issues with audio, where it goes to one channel. And I've actually seen this happen myself, but I've never got to the root cause of it. Have you seen it or haven't used it enough?
Oh, I generally use Skype to go into Wirecast more than I use Rendezvous. And no, I haven't seen this, not in my own practices, and I haven't been able to reproduce it at all. So
I'm making a guess that maybe they're doing or trying to do something pseudo-intelligent and having different guests in different places and audio-wise different channels.
100%.
Or if there's a different setting somewhere, I don't know.
I've gone in and out of this thing. So Wirecast not Wirecast, sorry, Skype in general, to save on bandwidth will often send lower things through. So they might be sending it only as one channel there and sending that to NDI. But the way that audio works through Skype is everything that's coming in on audio comes in on every NDI channel except for the local host. Local host video and audio come in as a separate element. But if you have 4 other people on a call, any of those input NDI video coming in will have the audio for everybody. So if you're adding NDI sources, you need to go and disable audio from multiple videos that you come in. Otherwise you get an echo. Because what ends up happening is that Skype and Wirecast, any external video coming in, there's a buffer, there's a delay on, but your video is faster than the monitor. So NDI Studio Monitor, all those tools that you use to just preview your own video, that's a higher delay than Wirecast is on the local video, but you can't pair that with somebody external coming in who is delayed.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
Okay. So I'm just bringing up one more. Let's have a look.
And for anybody who wants to know, I have links in the forum of examples of just that.
You love your radio voice.
I love my radio face.
Yeah. Here's what I'm going to talk about. And I had previously asked for bandwidth smoothing.
Yep.
That's my title for it anyway. And there was someone who was complaining about Facebook streaming dropping out for him. We're making a guess that he's got some, let's call it adverse network conditions. It's a guess. We don't know, but let's assume it's that. The only other possibility is, bad CPU and drop frames and causing it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But it's either network or hardware performance. On the assumption that it's network performance, how should we be doing this stuff in general? And in the future, we're going to have secure, reliable transport, okay? We can all look to Nirvana and look to the promised land. Oh, hang on. I've looked to the promised land. There, up above me.
Oh, where? Where is it?
I'm trying to point to the reflection, the light, yeah.
Yeah.
We can all look to the promised land, but it's not there now. And until it gets there, what should we do when, for example, and here's my specific use case example. I'm using an Apple hardware encoder. There is a known bug in the way that the Apple system encodes, and it has peaks when you do transitions. If I've got my bandwidth set to 1.25 megabits, and it will peak to 10 or 20 megabits per second for a period of time. So
very short period of time.
Very short period of time, but that's enough time to
kill a network
and to have TCP timeouts and retransmissions and all of that goodness.
Yep. So I went through something very similar when I first purchased my Helos, my hardware encoders, where they were using Apple H.264, and it was doing a beautiful job for quality. But I could set it to the exact same thing in Wirecast and have better quality output.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to set, and I still to this day need to set this thing to be 17,000 kilobits per second.
Okay.
In order to have a clean feed. Now, Apple H.264 has it's no longer constant bit rate. It's only a variable bit rate. And that's across the board. That's H.264, H.265, and I think a couple of the variants as well. So, but what was ending up happening is on keyframe intervals, it would spike on data. And I mean like massive spike on data and then drop down. So you could see, you see my background image that I have all the time, right? You've seen it. So I used this as testing. I'm going to pull that up if you give a second here. So I use this image here as my testing image for my encoding. It's high enough detail. It's got like super different colors on it here. It goes from dark to super light, and it works really, really well. I was able to replicate this every time. And so, sorry, I should have warned you on that one. I was able to replicate it every time, and it was very clear that something was wrong. And I sent it to AJ, who was able to replicate this thing on their end. And absolutely confirm. We can definitely see there's a problem with this. And the same thing happens with with Wirecast. If you encode this image as a low bit rate, this it ramps up and drops and ramps up and drops and ramps up and drops. And I think what's ending up happening is the way that the encoding is happening is that it peaks to try to send the keyframe data when there's a massive amount of information, but then drops off. So what you're seeing is when there's a complete screen change, it's doing the exact same thing. It's sending as much data as possible, basically a raw image, and then sending back the other ones. So I wouldn't blame Wirecast on. That's definitely an Apple problem. And if you don't do that, if you do, I think your ramping that you're saying, that ramping of your bandwidth, I think you're going to have major video data loss.
Yes. But here's the thing. Let's simplify it. Regardless of the root cause of it, if you've got something that's generating... someone needs a coffee cup. Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mike. If you've got something that's causing your bandwidth to exceed your known network capabilities, would it not make sense to have your video product configurable to allow you to work in adverse conditions?
Yes, but that should be your settings. That should be, here's my like you're outputting a video or rendering a video. Here's my target bit rate. I want to be.
Yeah, pause though. One is encoding. If you're not fully in control of the encoder, and you're not, and you know that different types of encoders can do different things at different times, should you have a network bandwidth smoothing capability or scheduler that's going to... Because Wirecast rightly is saying it's Apple's problem, but they're still choosing to support Apple encoding.
So but they can't not. That's the problem.
Well, if they can't not support it, then they need to do something so that every time you use it, it's not going to fall over and die.
Well, Apple has also not done a lot with their QuickTime protocol over the last several years. They've been focusing on grandma, grandpa computer hardware. Sorry.
Let's not get into brand wars.
I use Mac and PC. I love them both. But I think you can't exclude them because Apple does have good encoders. What I think should happen, and this, I don't know if it's part of the encoder, but I know you can do this when you're encoding video, set your target and set your maximum, right? And let the encoder do the work to find out where it is in that it needs to be.
Yeah, so let's just extrapolate that a little bit more. Setting the target is something that you send to the encoder. Setting your maximum is something that you do to make sure that what comes back from the encoder, because it is a target only, okay, it's agreed that an encoder, you send a target bitrate and that it can exceed that. And there's no limits in the protocol of how much it can exceed it by. So therefore, for a better customer experience and a better overall outcome, why not do something radical and smooth your bandwidth to what you're expecting to send?
Yeah. So what I find very interesting is like you're having this issue with it, and I'm agreeing like this is definitely an issue because I've seen it, we've both seen examples. I would love to talk to one of the engineers of this, because when I set it to 17,000 megabit per second or kilobits per second, it's not streaming that. And I'm telling you, I get gorgeous video out of it. Nice, crisp, clean lines, everything. And I get complaints from YouTube saying, hey, there's not enough bandwidth coming in to stream 1080p. Please check your encoding settings. It's like, no, I know it's fine. I'm streaming a slide out and I'm streaming like a person standing at a podium doing a presentation. It's not high action. I get it. It's fine. So what are they doing to get clean video at lower bit rates that are not having this issue? And they're using H.264 as the encoding. Right. I'd love to have a conversation with those engineers, and I know Telestream and AJA do talk to each other.
So what's the bandwidth that you actually do see coming out from that hardware encoder?
So if I set to 17,000 kilobits per second, I see a variety incoming from anywhere from 1,800 to about 3,800 oftentimes, sometimes less. If I'm only sending a slide of like, here's a slide of some text on it or a static image, it drops down to 600 kilobits per second at 1080p.
And that's a great solution for you. But for people who live in the third world who don't have great internet, my internet service, my upload speed from here is 5 megabits per second.
Yep.
And of that 5 megabits, I need to have enough for the connection between you and me, enough for the connection to YouTube. If I've got a second guest, enough for that connection as well. I can't do more than 1.25 meg to YouTube. Otherwise, I start to see problems.
And I completely agree.
So what would you do?
I would experiment with, honestly, I would say try a different encoder. It's one of the things that was the first thing I tried to do on mine. I use Wirecast
again. Let's pause. Apple hardware.
Yeah.
Other encoders are CPU bound, and I tried the other encoders, and I go from the devil to the deep blue sea, and I get the CPU light going on and drop frames. And
so for your case in particular, I would say you try looking into hardware encoder. Yeah. Right. And that's the thing. I've had a couple of conversations with Steve and a couple other people at Telestream where they're the same thing. They use Wirecast as the compositing. What you're doing right now. Here's everything. You're putting all the scenes together. You're running Wirecast as what a TV production company does for everything else that they do. Then they take that video and they output it. Now, for me, I use Blackmagic because it's STI and it's audio embedded. There's a variety of other ones out there to use, but have Wirecast output to that device and use that as an encoder, right? See if that works. Now, that's an extreme. That's not a solution for everybody, and I get that. But it could be a potential solution for a professional person who's doing this on a regular basis.
Yeah. I'm going to jump into some dynamic, we're going to fix a bug right now kind of thing.
Ooh, you find one? Is one online?
Yeah. So yay! I'm just getting something together right now. So stand by. I'm going to overlay some screen, but I've got to zoom this shot before we do that.
So while you do that, I'm going to have a conversation with the camera here by asking you a question, something that I've wanted to know since day one.
Okay.
So the question is the name Oz by Drones. Is this in reference to Wizard of Oz and how you're going around by drone in the land of Oz?
No, Oz,
No.
Australia. That's all. Nothing spectacular.
Okay, I figured it was a question. I'm like, I wonder if he's referencing the land of Oz. I'm a big Wicked fan. Love me some Wicked.
I love Wicked. It's absolutely an incredible musical. So what I'm trying to do in the background is I'm getting...
It's a better book.
Okay. There we go. So if I put that shot now and I put it up on the top layer and I've got to move it and drag it, and that's that annoying bug that we mentioned before, and it still won't move. There we go. And I'll leave that one alone. There we go. Need I say any more?
That's a lot of drop frames you have there.
Why would it be so?
So I put a bug in ages ago for drop frames. Now I'm not seeing in your video that many drop frames on YouTube.
No, it's working. It is going out to YouTube, and I'm monitoring the YouTube settings right now, and it's looking fine.
So one of the problems that I found was your preview window drops a lot of frames, and rightly so. That's the way that was a feature that they released. And I think that accounts for some of those drop frames. But it shouldn't be counting those in.
Why bother counting drop frames in a preview window? I mean, we don't care.
I think that was a bug, and it was something that was supposed to be fixed. I submitted a bug, and it was marked as fixed on their internal process. And so if you're still seeing that, that's an issue, at least on Mac. Yeah, I'm trying to think of where I have that bug listed, but after the show, remind me. I'll pull that up and I'll bring that to your attention so you can talk to them as well about it. But that was supposedly fixed.
It's interesting having a look at the output bit rate. I was not expecting to see 300 bits per second at times. Something is really, really weird today.
Ooh, so here's a good question for you then. So you have that up right now. So let's try.
66 went down for a second, 99, so...
Interesting.
And if I bring up my statistics window, let's have a look at the bit rate in the... whatchamacallit. If I turn that on, what is the actual bit rate? Yeah, it is very low today, according to the statistics.
That is unreasonable. In fact, you're streaming 720, I believe. You do 720p streams.
Yeah, exactly right.
That is extremely low for a 720.
But I'm having a look. I'm having a look at your image there. I haven't got the audio up, but the image is looking okay.
Yeah, and even when you're going to a screen view, that image is nice and clear.
Yeah. I don't get it.
So the display that you have right now with very minimal content on it, I get why that's low.
Yeah.
I bet if you went to your YouTube dashboard right now, which don't because that might go on screen, you'll see a warning from YouTube saying, hey, caution, the bandwidth is too low.
Yeah, I do have my YouTube dashboard in the background, and it is cautioning that it's too low.
Yep.
You're exactly
right. Because YouTube isn't aware of what the content is. So when I do events and I do hardware encoding and it always shows that error, I say to them, it's fine. I know what I'm doing. You have enough bandwidth on there. It will spike if I jump to a camera. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So I'm physically...
Interesting. Rendezvous just skipped out.
Oh, it's still there
it's
for
back
me.
Now. It was just super low quality.
Okay. I'm having a look at my encoding settings, and I've definitely got 1.25 megabits per second or 1250 kilobits per second. I don't know. Anyway, the time is 8:20. I reckon we've got time for one more quick flick over to the forum question and answer. So I'm going to go and pull over.
Just going to do a quick refresh, see if there's anything new. There's nothing new since we started.
Back to the one we were talking about. We talked about Facebook, and we suggested that bandwidth smoothing might be a good fix for that. People talking about different hardware that they could or should get. I'm going back further in time, or have we run out of everything that's interesting?
If we've run out of interesting stuff, I can grab one of the ones that I've got on my list of actual bug submissions. But
well, let's do this. Let's pull up the community trackery thing.
Yep.
There we go. So let's send that live. So I'm going to click on, would you like to look at bugs or feature requests? Take your pick. We'll pick the top one or two in whichever category you like. You pick.
Let's, well, we've already talked about the hotkeys. Let's do bug requests, the bug fixes. The feature requests are great, but we want them to fix bugs before they do too many features.
Okay. So this one is, we're going to do them from the top. We'll just read a couple of them off and explain what they are and why they're important. Configurable audio fader allocation. This is one of mine. And if you're using the USB mixer and you switch shots, every time you switch shots, the USB mixer will have different audio inputs that appear or disappear. You've seen that before?
So, Wirecast first. So, say this again.
The Wirecast, if you press Command U to get the USB mixer or the audio mixer in general.
Yeah.
Right? It's on your screen. And then you've got a shot that's got, let's say, in fact, let's do it live. Come on, let's have some fun.
Sure. So I think the thing that you're, I've got a USB one. Let's check it out. You're saying it changes every time?
Yeah, look at this. So I'm going to go and put this on screen. If I go like that and send that. So here's our audio mixer of everything we're doing right now. And I'm going to go and add a shot, and it will be a video capture shot, and it will be that. And I will turn off the video of that shot just because we don't want to actually watch the video. We don't care. Oops, there we go. Now, and I'll send that shot live, and all of a sudden...
Yes, this is what I would expect to see that. So right now, the audio mixer is only what is currently live.
Yes.
There is no preview of that. Now,
but let me hang on. What you just saw was a good outcome, but what happens many times is that new channel gets injected before the existing ones. So it reorders them.
Interesting. I've never seen that.
Every time, every day I do my show, it happens all the time. And here, let's do it the other way. If you remove a shot that's in the first channel, everything will shuffle down one, right? If I've got that screen capture, which I can't take away, but I'm just going to kill my audio for a minute.
Well, kill me for it right now.
Well, let me just create a new audio shot. Road, here we go. But I don't want to kill you because you're the one that's on the right-hand side. I want to kill the one in between to just show you that effect, because that's really the super bad one.
Are you using a webcam? Add your webcam and then remove the road.
I am using a webcam, but it's not a composite device.
Is it USB?
It's FaceTime. It's FaceTime. It's built in. built-in camera.
Oh, damn. Grab the internal mic then. You should be able to pull your internal.
Let me do this. So I just changed a shot which took my audio source out, and Matthew moves down one.
Yeah.
Okay, now the impact of that is not so bad if you're just using the mixer on screen, but if you've got a hardware device attached, like the Akai APC-40 Mark II, and you're midway through a fade, let's say I'm midway through a fade on a channel, and it moves things over and it reassigns them, and I end up muting my primary audio that I wanted to keep running.
Yeah, I get that. That is actually really bad. You should be able to assign an audio input to a channel.
Yeah, and
right?
If we have a look back at the original feature request, the title is Assignable Configurable Audio Fader Allocation. That's
I'm not even thinking that.
need.
I'm actually thinking you should be able to. So because elbow in your face. You should be able to have like the channel.
Yeah, I'll have you repeat your comments. I've
Sure.
reset the stream.
Yep.
So go.
I'm just waiting for that to kick back in. Okay. So essentially what I'm really hoping for in this type of thing is to have a global audio input that you can have across the board. But what that really means is that we need to have like a 12 or 16 channel audio interface in Wirecast that down mixes to either stereo or mono, right? You could assign me on channel 2, you on channel 1. Maybe your music is on channels 3 and 4, right? And that would, like a mixer would do, would down mix all of that stuff into something at the input. And I know I'm just, I talk with my hands. This would give that ability to do things like, great, I want to send stereo only, or I want to send mono only, or this single mic input that's only coming in on one channel. You can assign that and it would automatically split it to the stereo. I've got ASIO inputs right now that I need to convert into stereo before I give it to Wirecast.
Yeah. Okay. We understand the problem. We know multiple solutions.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to move on. I've got 28. We got 2 minutes, and I'm just going to show one little thing.
Sure.
And that would be.
I like talking.
Yeah. Rendezvous excessive CPU use we spoke about before. There was an audio-related crash that I believe is that fixed? Oh no, I sent a core dump of that. Bug report, traffic spike, we've spoke about that. NDI delay was a big one. Are you still seeing that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're on the same page.
Absolutely.
And that one they have actually said is planned. Yes, we're going to do it. Unlike the ones that are above it, which are considered, they don't actually yet. They haven't handed to engineering.
Yeah. So the NDI, they said they fixed. 12.1 was supposed to fix, but I was able to confirm with them and provide examples of it not functioning.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave it there for today. We've hitting the bottom of the hour. We've been talking for an hour. And it was fun chatting. It was fun having a look at some Wirecast stuff. We had some real bugs in the middle of it. We had real examples of how things are not working. We've got dropped frames still happening at a high rate of seconds, according to Wirecast. There it is. Why that is, I don't know. The CPU is running not hot at an app level, and let me change that to system. That is not running hot. There's no reason why those frames should be dropped. Possibly network, could it be? Maybe if you have a quick network glitch, you'd see that go up, but there's no reason whatsoever to see that number continuing to increment like the water meter and you're singing in the shower or something. No. Anyway, I'll leave it there for now. Anyway, it's been fun talking. It's been fun looking at some bugs. Thank you, Matthew. We're going to try and come back next week and do it all again. Until then, thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
And now I've just got to remember which button I had that music on so that I can press it and make it do something interesting. See ya.